18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the.
Welcome to Moving the Chains. And of course, I am not the gorgeous Ashmere cat. I'm not the gorgeous Ashmere. I am Jeff Barnes with Joe Cardozo. And of course, Greg joining the fray as well. It's football Sunday. We just talked about college football. It's time to talk the big boys, the NFL. You guys ready to rock?
You know it.
Heck yeah, man. I'm ready to go, man.
All right, then let's deep dive right into this one. And we're going to start with a quick little bit of a Thursday night recap. Niners knock off the Giants. How do y'all feel about that one?
Well, that was just an obvious demolition that was about to happen. I mean, there is nothing that the Giants could have done without Andrew Thomas tackle and no Saquon Barkley, etc. Yeah, they were destined for the defeat that they received.
Yeah, I think for San Francisco 49ers, kind of a slow start to that game, and then did exactly what we thought they were going to do. I mean, I didn't think that game was in question at all, especially without Saquon Barkley playing for the Giants. You kind of had to think the 49ers are going to win that game. I think that the Brock Purdy, pretty good performance. I think he was kind of inconsistent at first, but he ended up getting it done at the end. And I think if you're the 49ers, things are right on schedule. I mean, this is exactly what I expected from this team. Taking a look, you know how you look at the schedule and you say win, loss, try to guess. This is exactly according to plan. If that's what I saw from the Cisco 49ers, and I think for the Giants, it's going to kind of go back to the drawing board. But, yeah, I'm impressed with San Fran so far, and that defense is awesome.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be that close early. I thought they would have pulled away early. The Giants would have tried to rally. Instead, it was a interesting game for a half before, the Niners pulled away from them. I must say this, you watch the Giants get dominated by Dallas. You saw Arizona dominate them for a half before they came back. I was a little concerned with the Niners because it was like, wait a minute. I watched two teams, one you've beaten consistently in the playoffs, one that's not on your level, dominate this team early, and you were struggling with them. But I think it's the style of play. I think the Niners don't come out and mollywop you right away. They kind of jab you. They got that Larry Holmes style. They jab. Then finally they start coming back with that hook, right? They came with the hook in the second half, and the Giants couldn't hang. But they hung with the jab, which was shocking enough. Teams hit them with jabs, and the Giants were on their heels and wobbling. Not against the Niners. So real interesting, when you see that, I think it's going to be one of those things. We're going to see the Niners and Eagles again, which is going to be a nice matchup later this season. But that was real interesting knowing that when it came down to the NFC East and they matched up with the Giants, that one of the weakest of the three playoff teams from the East last year, it wasn't this blowout that we thought it would be, even with the Giants missing Barkley and the people on the line and Adoree Jackson, not Adoree Jackson, the rookie corner going out. So there was a lot of things that happened in that game, and even then, it wasn't a knockout. They weren't they weren't on a rope yet. It was still in the middle of the ring, mixing it up. So kudos to the Giants for hanging for a while, but
yeah, true.
It kind of put the Niners in a less overpowering light. It kind of made them look a little more fallible, I think would be the right word.
I'd agree with that.
So we jumped on the Thursday night matchup. The big news this week, of course, is Trayvon Diggs going down with the injury, out for the year after tearing his ACL in practice. The question is, can the Cowboys still be dominant defensively without Diggs?
Absolutely, they can be. Because they've got a front seven that can destroy teams, regardless of Trayvon Diggs being there or not. Deron Bland will go to the outside. Jordan Lewis from that school up north will be the nose nickel back. The Cowboys have other guys on their roster as well. Eric Scott Jr., the other young man that they picked up from Miami, Israel Mukuamu, who was a corner at South Carolina. So they have bodies. You don't need to always have the big guy on your roster to win.
Yeah, I just think that the front four is just so dominant, and they don't have to do all those exotic blitzes and bring extra people. They can just get pressure with the guys they have up front, and I think that's going to make it even easier. I mean, yeah, you obviously don't want to lose Trayvon Diggs, a great talent. He's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. But if I'm a second, third string guy or a guy coming off the street, even when I know that I kind of take some chances maybe and I can do some things differently because I have pressure coming on the quarterback literally every single play, that makes things a little bit easier. So I think Dallas, yeah, the big playability, his ability to turn over the ball and get turnovers and kind of shut down one side of the field for a little bit is going to be missed. But I think this defense, it will be a blimp and not a big bump, put it that way.
Yeah.
Deron Bland had more interceptions last year than Trayvon Diggs did. So
very true. I when you think of last year, okay, and we talk about the issues they had late in the season with the cornerback issue, people forget that Deron Bland played last year because Jordan Lewis got hurt early in the season with the Lisfranc injury, right? Yeah. And then Deron Bland came in, but they didn't have issues at cornerback till they lost Jordan Lewis and Anthony Brown.
Yeah.
And that's when you started to see the chinks in their armor as far as that secondary. I think they're fine, even if they lose Diggs, because fine, Bland steps in, but you still have Lewis to man the slot. You have Gilmore on the opposite side, and you have those young corners behind them that you have up and coming. I think they'll be okay. That pass rush is still phenomenal, but I think you're going to have a quality defensive backfield that will allow you to play with that front still. As long as that front is still getting pressure, it doesn't matter who's back there. Yeah. But I think what you're going to get is, at least if they try to throw those quick passes before the front gets there, Land is still going to be good enough. Jordan Lewis in the slot is still going to be good enough. Gilmore is definitely good enough. So I think they'll be fine. I don't think they'll be what they were with Diggs. I still think they'll be damn good and good enough to make a playoff run. So
absolutely.
We go from cornerback to quarterback. Jordan Love, everybody dumped on this kid, okay? And we've seen it. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is going. They're going to stink. People predicted him to win 3 games. Some people said they'd have the first overall pick.
Oh, my gosh.
Look good with Jordan Love. So is he for real? Or is this just the honeymoon phase?
I think he's for real. And I said so in his draft class that this kid was going to be a very good quarterback in the league when he had somebody in front of him to teach him how to play. Obviously, he had Aaron Rodgers. He studied. He did his homework. And without Christian Watson, he's played remarkably well, 3 touchdowns in both games.
Joe?
Yeah, I think that he's for real. I've been very impressed with him. I think that this is, I mean, I know it's not the way it's supposed to be done now, but this is the kind of football the 3 of us grew up on. You know, you're a first-round draft pick. You sit, you learn, you hold a clipboard for a couple seasons. You only get splashes of players during the preseason. When the old guard retires or moves on, that's your time to shine. I think Green Bay's done masterful with this guy. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams in the NFL that would love to have Jordan Love under center. Yeah, it's a small sample size. I get it. But what I've seen so far, able to adapt, able to handle pressure, mobile enough. I think Green Bay's in good hands with this kid.
This is the precautionary tale that you never listen to the guys that watch the preseason and make snap judgments, right? Everybody for years has been watching the preseason, maybe watch a couple of games when Aaron Rodgers was hurt. Oh, this kid doesn't have it. He's a bust. They wasted their time. They need to hold on to Aaron Rodgers. They paid Aaron Rodgers all that money. They didn't work out last year. They get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Oh, they're done. Jordan Love will never do it. All of a sudden, all of those people are now turning around and they want to kiss him. Okay, they wanted to kill him just last year. Now they want to kiss him, right? So I think what you got to do is you got to really take the emotion out of it. People always want to look at the emotional part of it. No, watch the kid play. Determine after he's had a chance to play. He's had time to learn. He's had time to grow, but now he's got to grow on the field. It didn't work out immediately with Aaron Rodgers either. Aaron Rodgers only won first 4 games his first year as a full-time starter in Green Bay.
Yeah. So
people have to give young players time. They're already jumping all over Justin Fields the same way. He's blaming the coaches. They're staying. Give the kid the time to display what he really is. Stop taking these snap judgments. We live in such a microwave popcorn society when it comes to judging talent and expecting results.
Yeah,
take it slower.
Sure.
Let the roast marinate. Let it roast. Don't throw it in the microwave for 5 minutes and think you're gonna cut it open and eat it. Let it sit in the oven and roast for the hours it's supposed to roast, and you get the dinner, right? That's the problem. Nobody wants to wait for the dinner. Like everyone wants the microwave dinner. You put it in 3 minutes, take it out, I'm start eating, cutting into it. It don't always work out that way.
Nope.
So I think we got to get back to that point of letting the dinner cook.
I mean, Greg gets it. Not the first time they've done it before.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, we're rolling right through this. Coming up on a half hour through the show, and we're rolling right through the topics. Okay, so we got 2 big-time 0-2 teams. Need a win, but who needs it more? All right, is it the Chargers or the Chiefs? Am I right? Oh, the Bengals. It's supposed to be Bengals, not Chiefs. Chargers or Bengals? Who needs this win more?
Man. I think the Chargers, just because Brandon Staley it's on the hottest of hot seats, in my opinion. You have a really, really talented quarterback, and I just feel like you're wasting his years if you're not getting to the levels you want to get to, meaning Super Bowl, playoff advancement. I think they need to get for anything else, just to quiet the haters, quiet the media, quiet even what's going on in their own building, within Chargers building. I'm sure there's a lot of whispers going on. Here we go again. Is this the right guy for the job? I think a win quiets that down, gives confidence to your players. I think with the Bengals, I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan. I think even going 0-3, a healthy Joe Burrow can figure it out with that team to get you into a wild card or sneak you into the playoffs. But I think for the Chargers, it is imperative they get a W this week.
Yeah, I agree with Joe on both those fronts. Brandon Staley, you might be a defensive guy. You might think you know what you're talking about and all that other sort of stuff, but you have the talent on your defense to play defense, and you refuse to do so because of your ego.
Talk about it.
It's his ego. And you guys talked about that on the college show with these coaches and their egos. Brandon Staley has enough talent on that defense to win games. He just refuses to allow them to do so. So I think it's the Chargers that absolutely have to win.
I'm going to go in the opposite direction for a different reason. I think with the Chargers, the quarterback's going to be there. For the most part, most of that team is going to be there unless they have a total regime change and they blow it up. For the most part, that team is what it is. Nobody's expecting Super Bowl out of the Chargers. The Bengals, on the other hand, went to a Super Bowl already with this team. You've had this quarterback who you drafted who's been beat up. I think the only quarterback his age is that got beat up as much was Troy Aikman in his early years.
Yep.
Yeah. David Carr, sure.
Yeah. So when you look at what's going on, it's to the point where you think about what happened the other day. How often does an owner come into practice, scoop up your quarterback, drive him around on a golf cart, have a talk with him, and then let him go back to practice to try to get something going? So the owner's feeling at 0-2. So, yeah, I think there's a little more sense of urgency with the Bengals. Plus, the window for this team is already halfway in there, right?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right, they're still shuffling things around in the O-line. You saw they got rid of Lyle Collins, who they just signed 2 years ago. So I think they're already in the middle of that window where you talk about Super Bowls and runs and all that stuff. And before they have to start to reboot some of these guys. So I think the sense of urgency is more on Cincinnati than it is on LA. I think LA, the only people that expect Super Bowl out of LA are LA. They get Chargers, you better win or else. Everybody else is like, you're a good team, you'll be around for a while. But you're not better than Buffalo. You're not better than Kansas City, although you give them a fight every year. You're not better than Cincinnati when they're playing their best ball. And they're going down a list right now. And hell, when Aaron Rodgers, before he went down on the MetLife Stadium turf, they weren't even better than the Jets in a lot of people's minds. So, I think nobody's really looking at the Chargers right now and saying they're in a win now mode. They want them to figure it out, and they're saying the coach better win now. But I don't think for the most part, that team, as far as they're going to keep that team together for a while, I think is Cincinnati, because they're in the middle of that window, because they've had the success already, because they're starting to look at the point where they may need to get rid of guys and get younger, because they played it simple. They know they can't afford to keep everybody, and they're in the middle of that window. They've already been to a Super Bowl. They're struggling right now. The quarterbacks had issues being healthy. And you've seen with the running back, take a pay cut or else you're out of here. All right. They're already in the middle of that window. They're operating like a team. Like, we've been in this group window for a couple of years. They started to make some economical changes, started to make some changes as far as getting younger. So, I think it's Cincinnati for me.
Yeah, I have so much faith in Joe Burrow. I think 0-3. I mean, 4 might be pushing it, but I think if they happen to go 0-3, he can out. He's obviously number one. He's got to be healthy, but he's so talented. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, those guys they got out on wide receivers. Joe Mixon, the most underrated running backs in the NFL. I think if they would happen to be 0-3, they can figure it out and right the ship. But that all hinges on Joe Burrow being healthy. But as far as winning now, as far as like pursuing your goals, I think Jeff's absolutely right. The guy goes Cincinnati with that in that aspect.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, we're going to pursue some commercials, so we'll be right back with more right after this.
Hey, football fans, we have a great offer for you from one of our newest partners, FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up now for a new FanDuel account by using our special link located in the description, and you will get a no-sweat bet up to $1,000. That means that you can bet up to $1,000 on your first wager risk-free. FanDuel will give you the amount you wagered back in free bets if you lose. So go ahead and bet on your favorite team this Sunday, and even if they lose, you are taken care of. To claim this special offer, just click the link in the description and create a new account. Then make your first bet on whatever you like. That's it. Win some money at FanDuel today.
And we're back, and we are hoping you're okay with the host having a little more facial hair than normal. So we're going to continue to move on down the road. We got a battle of running backs today. You know, top runners going at it tonight. Atlanta, Detroit. We're talking about Bijan Robinson for Atlanta. Jahmyr Gibbs, Detroit. How do you guys feel about these two runners?
Well, as a fantasy football owner who has Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm finally happy to see him get in the field and get some more opportunities. If this kid's gotten the ball, he'll have 1 or 2 good plays. You think they got something going, and what do? They put him on the bench and bring somebody else in. So for him to be the main guy and have an opportunity to showcase his skills today, I'm excited about that. And then Robinson's been everything we expect him to be, right? I mean, this guy was the top running back in the draft. He goes to Atlanta, a real young, dynamic offense. And I mean, they're not there yet, but I think in a season or two, Atlanta's going to have one of the most electric offenses in the NFL. I think about Ritter. If or not he's the guy, we'll find out. You have Drake London. You still have Kyle Pitts there. You have Bijan Robinson to that mix. Atlanta's got something going on. This could be exciting.
Greg?
Well, I was the guy that wrote the Bijan Robinson article last year, over generational or a hype type player. Bijan is everything that he's supposed to be, and he proved it last week against the Packers. I mean, he basically won that game for the Falcons. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be used more as a receiver because Mr. St. Brown is kind of dingy today. So in your PPR fantasy leagues, which we all participate in, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a very big guide. And I just really see this game as a showcase for both of them.
Yeah, I think this is exactly what you want, right? These are two teams that love to run the football. They love to control the flow of the game. Well, you're going to get that from these two guys. I think during the draft, one of the things we were biggest critics of with the Gibbs pick was you already have Michelle, they're the same runner, right? Well, he just happens to be the more consistent version of Sony Michel so far. So I think what you're looking at is, okay, well, great. They got what they wanted. They got the more consistent version of that player. How are they going to use them? Well, they're still using them in the committee backfield. They believe in doing that because they don't want guys being overly used up and hurt. And I understand that. And honestly, Atlanta's doing the same thing with Bijan Robinson. He's getting control of the amount of carries. Why? Because you still have Tyler Algier. So I think what you're seeing is both of these teams are built very similar. It's going to lead to a very interesting game, right? Because these are two similar built teams, all right? St. Brown, like I said, it still baffles me that he's the better of the St. Brown brothers because we saw Equanimous.
Equanimous was,
you know, the fact that he came to the pros and disappeared, it's just been wow. There's no other way to describe it. It's just baffling how it's gone for him. But overall, I must say this is the game that you want to watch because it's two heavyweights that like to sit there and hit. They don't move around the ring. They don't do a lot of slipping and dodging and moving around. They stand in front of each other and love to hit. And this is the kind of game you're going to see running the ball. You're going to see some play action throws. You're going to see some quarterbacks trying to make some tight window throws based off of those scenarios. So it's going to be a lot of the similar things. Defenses that have some good pass rushes there. So I think this is what you want to see. I think the Atlanta secondary is a little more ahead of Detroit's secondary, but I think the Detroit pass rush is way better than Atlanta's. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup. Who can control whose running game is going to matter the most? Which running back has the big plays and the bigger moments? Because I think they're both going to add some big plays, but I think in the key moments of these games, because they're going to be close, because they're so similarly built, I think that's what's going to be the key here. So, man, they still got so many undefeated teams out there. Although it's only 2-0, we're not deep into it. We're still waiting on the shores, ankle deep in the season. But we got to still have a few undefeated teams left. So let's talk about those undefeated teams. Which ones are pretenders? Which ones are contenders? So let's start out. I'm going to throw out a couple of these, and we're going to start with, of course, the Miami Dolphins. Pretender, contender. What do you think?
I'm gonna say they're a contender. As long as Tua Tagovailoa is healthy, they're a contender.
What about you, Greg?
I'm going to put them in the pretender category. Yeah, I'm still not sold on the Dolphins. I think until they come out and absolutely dominate another team. They have not dominated in their first two games. Yes, he had 455 yards against that Chargers defense, but again, that goes to Staley and his ego, et cetera, et cetera. But you watch that game against the Patriots, and Belichick took away Tyreek Hill. He took him out of that equation. No Jalen Waddle today. And Waddle
So today will be a test.
Yeah. Waddle is the more important receiver out of the two.
It's interesting.
I would agree with that because he opens up things for Hill.
That's right.
Yeah, and they play against the Broncos today, so it's going to be an interesting test. We know the Broncos can score; they haven't been able to stop anybody. But yeah, I think that with Miami, I want to say contender, but I say pretender because they haven't proved they can sustain this style of play. They're always one injury away from it falling off the table. They're always one kind of form of adversity or another, whether it's struggles on the offensive line or the defense starting to struggle, when they start to blow games that they were winning. Remember last year they jumped out to a big lead and then all of a sudden blew the game late in the game.
Yeah.
So I think their biggest struggle is consistency. Can they be this over 17 games? I don't know if they are that. So until they prove to me that they can be this way for long periods of time, I'm going to say pretender. But pretender.
Well, you guys convinced me I was wrong, so I'll go pretender. you two made excellent points. I'll change my vote. This video lasts forever.
Because I was going to say pretender with an asterisk because this could change later. All right. So that was where I was going. 2-0 Commanders. Pretender or contender?
Ugh. I'm going to say pretender with an asterisk because this team will get better as the season goes on. But like I was telling Greg before we came on the air, I have no visions of Gander. I didn't think Super Bowl or NFC Championship game. You got to understand, for Commanders fans, we're just so happy to have new ownership. We can go 2 and not win any more games for the season. It's been a great year for the Commanders. So I'll say pretender with an asterisk because Eric Bieniemy is showing me a thing or two. He's exactly what I thought he was going to be. We had the little bump in the road with the player saying he's too hard on them, blah, blah, blah. That was the hottest thing in the news for like a day or two. But I think as the season goes on, we're going to improve. But I'll say pretender with asterisks for the Commanders.
Yeah, I agree with Joe on that. I even wrote that come Thanksgiving Day, the Commanders will beat the Cowboys. They will beat the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day. I just have that feeling. It's bound to happen because the Cowboys suck on Thanksgiving Day. Really, they do. For whatever reason, they will blow that game. I just have that feeling. Sam Howell will have that moment, and but
I'll take it.
Well, yeah, of course you will.
Not mad about that. Keep talking.
Yeah, exactly. The Commanders getting a win against the Cowboys is always a good thing. Of course, I did write that the last game of the year will be different this year than it was last year. But I think the Commanders need Terry McLaurin to step up. Where has he been?
Yeah, I almost wonder, is the toe injury a lot more serious than they talked about? Yeah. That's what I think it is.
Exactly. I think his turf toe is something that's holding him down. Right?
Well, that's where you need somebody else to step up, right?
Yeah,
exactly. We're going to be a contender, and it can't be one guy. And see, that's the big thing about it. I think that question gets answered today. If they win against Buffalo today, you can start to factor them in as a contender. If they go and do what we expect them to do, lose to Buffalo, I think we've proven that there was just a great start. They're not really a contender. They'll be a tough out, but they ain't a contender just yet. But overall, the beautiful thing is this nice early test today. But I'm going to say pretender because I wasn't overly impressed with the first 2 wins. It's nice that they won those games. They won in dramatic fashion. I wasn't overly impressed with the opposition, but nevertheless, they won their first 2 games. But this test today is a bit different. It's a different animal. A team has been in the playoffs last couple of years, has made some noise in the playoffs that we consider a contender. They would probably be in this conversation if they would have won their first 2 games, but they're not. So therefore,
Yeah.
they get to be the spoiler for somebody's contender pretender today. Right now, I'm still saying pretender for Washington. Going on to the 2-0 Baltimore Ravens, contender or pretender?
Contender.
Yeah, contender. I think so. I think this team is built for a long, successful season. I think Lamar Jackson, the new offense, their defense, man, you keep on hearing about injuries on the defense side. They throw somebody you never heard of before, unless you're a deep NFL draft fan. You're like, who's this guy? And they just do their job.
We know who they are.
Yeah, I don't. A lot of the guys that come for the Ravens, I'm like, third-round draft pick from Nicholls State, and the guy has 2 sacks. Okay, whatever. It's great coaching, really good job from the scouting department. I say the Baltimore Ravens are contenders 100%.
Well, I'm going to say pretender. And here's why. With the new offense, they haven't hit their stride. So how long will it take for them to fully grasp what Todd Monken's doing, to execute at a high level with the talent that they have, minus J.K. Dobbins, because, of course, catastrophic injury he suffered. And I feel bad for J.K. Dobbins' speedy recovery. It's the second big injury for him in the last 3 years. I feel bad for that young man. He was my RB1 coming out in the draft class that he was in.
Yeah.
But I think right now, normally we talk about, well, the offense is going to be what it is. It's going to flow through Lamar as long as he stays healthy. Well, now it's a little bit different. It still flows through Lamar as long as he stays healthy. But now that it's supposed to be more of a balanced offense, it's not this run-heavy offense that Greg Roman ran, much to the atrocity that it was. I think it held Lamar back. Now we get to see Lamar develop as a passer. We saw anybody who believed in Lamar Jackson knew he could do it. How well they put this all together. Now, Zay Flowers has looked phenomenal so far. You're still waiting on their other draft pick from 2 years ago to finally get to that level to show you the full promise. He's still having his moments. And we haven't had a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. yet. So they're still kind of muddling along offensively. They're getting wins. They're not pretty. If you get to a point where you get into these kind of lulls, where your defense starts to struggle a little bit, and you're dropping 2-3 games here, before you know it, you're a wild card team. So right now, they're pretender for me until they could sort this offense out, get it flowing, do it a balanced attack that's consistent, and then I may put them back in the contender race. But right now, they got to get this offense going for me to have any really good vibes about them playoff time. Because right now, they're still a little shaky to me when they get up against the top competition. I mean, they'll have a decent team today with the Colts, 101 Colts, but they can beat the Colts. I'm not worried about this. I'm worried about when you get back in the division, you got to play division opponents that can score. And I don't mean Pittsburgh. And you get to other opponents in the conference who can score and put up points. Can you consistently do it? Can your defense get stops? That's the big question for me right now. If they can do that on a consistent basis, get to the point where you feel good about their offense, then yes, that's what we want. Right now, I'm still looking at them going, whoa, not just yet. So, 2-0 Cowboys. Contender, pretender.
Greg, please.
We are definitely contenders. The Texas Coast offense has been remarkable for Dak Prescott, who, considering he's still the Cowboys quarterback and all that other jazz that the sports media loves to talk about, there's been 2 games without a turnover. Even though Dak Prescott is nowhere near the number of turnovers of Derek Carr, Josh Allen, and all these other guys, Dak Prescott will find CeeDee Lamb wide open today. He will find Gallup wide open. He will find Brandon Cooks wide open against this Arizona team and all this other stuff. I don't care about what happens today. I care about what happens in week 5 when they go to Santa Clara, not San Francisco. I care about that game the most. when this defense shows up against the San Francisco 49ers offense, that's what I want to see happen. Dak doesn't have to do very much against the San Francisco defense. The Dallas defense will be the answer. And that's why they are contenders.
Joe?
Yeah, I would have to say just because of the defensive side of the ball, to me, Dallas is definitely without a doubt contenders. The offense has been hitting in all strides. No Zeke Elliott, no problem. It wasn't the first time they would play without Zeke, but now that they knew coming into the season, never going to be a return of him. I think Tony Pollard and the rest of those guys, Vaughn as well, has come in and had some good moments. I think without a doubt, as much as it pains me being commander and to say it, got to be a realist, a guy who watches football and watches it, knows the game pretty well. Without a doubt, Dallas is a contender.
Yeah, I'm going to say contender as well. Listen, it seems been in the playoffs last 2 years as a division champion, as a wild card. It's had some tough outs, okay? Both of those losses to San Francisco, down to the wire. Could have gone either way, would have play here or play there. So San Francisco's definitely a contender, right? So they're definitely one they'll be last in the three last undefeated we'll talk about in a minute. But I think I just gave a spoiler on my feeling on San Francisco. But nevertheless, when you look at this defense, it is what it is. This offense has been efficient. It ain't even blown the doors off anybody yet, right?
Yeah.
So they just been efficient, and they look this good. 70-10 in their first 2 games. What they do in Arizona today will be a question. All right, so if they go to Arizona and dominate again today, not only are you going to say contender, you're going to say contender with an exclamation point because they're playing some of the best football in the league right now. I think the only team that can match is San Francisco as far as the first 3 games of the season, how well they've played. We can't even say that about the defending world champions. So they're showing us a lot right now. And they beat quality opponents. The Giants are a quality opponent. The Jets were a quality opponent. Right? So they didn't come out with the the bottom of the barrel and rape those 2 teams the first 2 games of the season. No, they came out and beat 2 quality opponents right off the bat. So I think right now what we're looking at is a team that I think there's a lot of teams that want to say pretender because they just don't like them, but what you're seeing on the field,
I wanted to, but I can't.
What you're seeing on the field is what it is. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been since my youth not a huge fan of that team that undefeated team in Philadelphia. But you want to know what? I can tell you whether they're a pretender or contender without any personal bias. And even though sometimes it burns my bacon to want to say contender, they are. So another spoiler right there, folks, because that's the next we're going to talk about because they play each other Monday night. 2 undefeated teams, the Eagles and Buccaneers. Are they both contenders or 1-1? 1 contender, 1 pretender? You tell me, guys.
I think it's a 1-1. The Buccaneers are a field story. It was nice to see Baker Mayfield win his first 2 games. I'll be very, very surprised if they're able to pull it off on Monday night. I think with the Eagles, they're able to figure out ways to win. Kind of a slow start in that game they had a couple weeks ago on Thursday night, able to pull away and beat Minnesota. So I say Philadelphia, contender, Bengals, feel good story, Buccaneers, feel good story, pretenders.
What about you, Greg?
I got the Eagles as contenders. I mean, I wrote about it in my Cowboys article that I'm convinced that Philadelphia and Dallas will be 12-5, both teams. I just feel that way. The Buccaneers, I'm actually putting them in as contenders.
Please explain.
Because of the division that they're in. They are contenders.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think the Buccaneers, if the weather is Florida-like weather on Monday night and they get a little bit of a rainstorm.
We get those a lot this time of year.
Yeah, exactly.
The Insta hurricanes.
Yeah. Yeah,
The 5-minute monsoons, as we call them.
yeah, exactly right. If Tampa Bay does do a number on the Eagles secondary, which they're capable of with Godwin and Mr. Evans, Philadelphia might be 2-1. They might be.
Man, I don't trust Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield is not the issue.
I'm going to tell you this much. I'm going to say 1-1. I'm going to say the Eagles are a contender. I'm going to say the Bucs are a pretender. I'm saying this is your Bucs writer here.
Yeah.
And make sure you tune in to Bucs Weekly every week. Here
There you go. I was like, where's the drop at, man?
Yeah, there you go. We got to go. So yeah, and I went over this in my keys to victory, as I call it, my map to pirate treasure on the show. I'm going to say the Bucs are a pretender because they're doing better than anybody expected. No doubt about it. They're playing the way Todd Bowles, wants to play. Tough defense. They're controlling the tempo of the game. They're getting the opportune moments. They're not turning the ball over. The question is, when they get out of that mode, can they still win? And I don't think they can. I think Philadelphia is going to be the team that's going to get them out of that mode. I think Philadelphia is going to put them in situations where they're trailing. They have to make plays. Unlike against Minnesota, Philadelphia won't stop making those plays. So can you keep up with Philadelphia? I don't think they can. I think their biggest struggle is going to come where Philly's biggest strength is. Philly's biggest strength is on that interior defensive line. The Bucs' biggest weakness, interior offensive line. So I think their strength and weaknesses don't match up. That we talked about with Colorado. Their weakest point, offensive line, well, match Oregon, right? They couldn't match Oregon's offensive line with that defensive line. Well, I think the defense in Tampa Bay is going to get Philadelphia off the field at times. I think I predicted 27-13 Philadelphia. I just think that when you look at it, the Buccaneers are playing well right now. Can this be sustained? As long as they're winning, as long as they're playing tight games, yeah. Inside the division, they could do that. I think the Saints are built the same way, but with a little more explosiveness with some of those receivers. Because once you get outside of Mike Evans and Godwin, they don't have anything else, right? Everything else is quality. Then you got the runner, Rashad White, who's explosive. But New Orleans, you got Olave. You finally have a healthy Michael Thomas after Lord knows how many years, but you still have tight ends you got to worry about. The tight ends in Tampa Bay, you don't worry about. They're possession guys. They're not game breaker guys. Cade Otton, possession guy. So I think what you're looking at right now, those guys have to be schemed open. The guys in New Orleans don't have to be schemed open. They can get open on their own. And so when you finally get the offense in New Orleans opened up, being able to attack people and put up bigger points, that'll be a problem for Tampa Bay.
And that comes next week when Mr. Kamara returns from his suspension.
Yeah, when he comes back, that adds a guy out of the backfield who's another matchup problem. So I think you're going to have more issues with defenses when when they get all their weapons. I think Tampa Bay, you've got all your weapons. This is what you got. So they got to be a little more controlled. When they can't control the flow of the game, I worry about them, and they're not going to be able to control the flow of the game Monday night. And there'll be other matchups this season that are the same way. If they get into the playoffs, can they control the game against Dallas? No. Can they control against the Eagles? No. Against the Niners? No. So when I look at all of the teams that most likely are facing the playoffs, it's not happening. They're not real. All right. We have the last one, of course, the Niners.
I say contender without doubt.
Well, I've already given my spoiler, so we already know where I feel. Greg?
I actually have the 49ers as a contender, but I have an exclamation mark.
Ooh.
Because I'm not a fan of this whole Brock Purdy isn't human and all this other jazz. I think Brock Purdy is in trouble in week 5. I think Brock Purdy is in big trouble in week 5
I
because
think really?
yeah,
Go ahead, finish, Greg. I
the
covered the
Niners,
Niners, so I definitely got something to say.
the Niners right tackle is new.
McKivitz, yeah.
McKivitz. He is going to be under so much pressure in that game, it's not going to be funny. He's going to have DeMarcus. He's going to have Micah. He's going to have the whole gang. And that's where the 49ers become pretenders.
I
would hope think that after you saw the destructible force was TJ Watt, what he did to you guys in Pittsburgh, Kyle would figure something out, whether it be tight end, back chipping, something to help that out. And one of the things that stands out to me that makes Brock Purdy such a good quarterback is he's able to diagnose things really quickly. Like right off the snap, it's first progression, second progression, falls out. And that's going to have to be at like elite level against the Dallas Cowboys because you're not going to have all day back there to throw the ball, to Greg's point. We talked about how great that is in Dallas. I mean, his pre-snap read and post-snap read is going to have to be like as high as it's been, or it's going to be a long day for him for sure. But I think just go contender.
Yeah, I'm going to still say contender. I think they have the ability to beat a Dallas or Philadelphia. I think where Dallas and Philadelphia give them problems is the fact that, and especially more this year than last year. I think Dallas last year gave them problems, but not to the point that they can give them this year. This year, Dallas is doing a better job of rushing the passer from the inside of the pocket.
Bingo.
Also, Odighizuwa with the 3 sacks is among the league leader in sacks, along with Micah Parsons. But that's big right there. Last year, you had to worry about it on the outsides. Lawrence and Micah Parsons coming off the edges. Maybe when they loop inside, you get a little pressure. But you didn't have Odighizuwa and those guys creating that inside pressure on the pocket last year.
Yeah, collapsing it.
Yeah. So I think that's what, because that's realistically, that's how you got the Purdy last year, right? Yeah, the edge pressure got there, but those big boys up the middle made it where he couldn't step up from that edge pressure. He was able to do that against Dallas in the playoffs and defeat them. If they can now fix that, and I believe they've done that with Odighizuwa, I think they're doing that with Hankins. I think they're doing that with Gallimore. Those guys coming up from the inside, collapsing it enough, looping Parsons inside. I love what they do when they have Lawrence and Sam Williams outside, and then you have Parsons coming up the middle along with Odighizuwa. That right there collapses the inside of the pocket so much. Those outside rushers get there. There's so much pressure. That's what's going to get to a Purdy. So I think that's what, you look at it. McKivitz is going to need help. You can leave Williams on the left side alone. He could probably hold his own. But that interior pressure is where Dallas struggled last year. They couldn't seem to get there on the interior of the pocket. They may be able to do that this year against San Francisco. If they don't, it'll be similar results. But Philadelphia, sure enough, can do it with the guys they got. So they're definitely a contender for me. But they're going to have some tough battles with those 2 teams. Those are the 3 teams in the NFC. I know everybody talks about the AFC. The NFC's top teams are tough. They could beat anybody in the NFL. Anybody.
Agreed.
So
literally and physically, they can beat you. Literally and physically.
Yeah. So that's what we talk about the 2 conferences. Everybody likes to overload the AFC. The AFC has a lot of good quality teams. The NFC has a lot of good quality teams, but you trust the quality of the AFC overall more. But the NFC's top teams, their top dogs can roll with anybody. So I don't see this difference in the conference that a lot of people have. But definitely, we got to get to rapid fire as we get ready we're past noon, so we get ready for kickoff in an hour. So let's jump right into that. So we'll start with the early games. So the 1:00 games. Titans, Browns.
Titans.
Good job, Greg.
I'm gonna go Browns. I think right now, offensively, both of these teams are struggling. If they could stop Henry, I think they'll be all right. I think Amari Cooper and Watson are starting to get going. The question is, who else is going to get going with Amari Cooper, because nobody seems to want to catch the ball in Cleveland other than Amari Cooper.
Tyjae Spears makes a world of difference for the Titans out of that backfield.
Absolutely. But so does Ford for Cleveland. He is that was a steal in the draft, and he looked like it when Chubb went down. Falcons Lions. We talked about this matchup earlier, but we didn't predict it.
Lions.
Yeah, I go Lions at home.
Only because Kyle Brandt needs to shave that silly mustache of his off.
I have a feeling
Hutchinson's a beast.
I have a feeling it's going to stick around an extra week. I'm going to take the Falcons. Saints Packers.
Saints.
I'm going to go Packers at home.
We didn't talk about the Saints as a pretender. You guys think they're a contender?
I think they're a pretender.
Because the defense is back to getting turnovers. That was their biggest error last year. Was they were 30th in turnovers last year. They're back to turning that ball over. I'm sorry, Jordan Love. He's going to throw a pick today that's going to go for 6.
Still got number 4 under center, so I just say pretender.
I'm going to go 3-0 Saints.
Yep.
Dolphins, Broncos, battle undefeated versus winless.
Miami.
I'm going to say the Broncos.
I'm going to take Miami. I just think that right now, until Sean Payton and them get this ironed out, they're going to still going to have some more struggles. The Miami Dolphins will capitalize on one of those struggles. Give me Miami. Battle of winless teams. Who gets their first win today? The Vikings versus the Chargers.
I'm going to go Chargers on the road.
Yep. Chargers get it done on the road.
Which quarterback do I trust more, Kirk Cousins or the youngster? I'm going to go with the youngster. I'm going to go with the Chargers. I do not trust Kirk Cousins, and he proved that week 1 versus Tampa Bay. I bet on him, and he's let me down. So, yeah, I think 0-3 Vikings after today. Winless Patriots versus the 1-1 Jets.
Mr. Belichick continues to roll against the Jets.
I can't put any more faith in Zach Wilson. Come on, Patriots.
We're going to have there will be no lone wolf on this one. I'm going Patriots as well because plain and simple, you don't have faith in Zach Wilson. I don't have faith in his offensive coordinator. So therefore, I do not trust Nathaniel Hackett with a potato gun. So therefore, I'm going to take the Patriots. Commanders, Bills. We talked about the Commanders. They're hosting the Bills today.
I will jump in first and say the Commanders beat the Bills.
Yeah, Commander 3. We make it a long day. What I saw in the last part of that game, pass rush wise from Washington, if they can bring that effort early on in the game and make things difficult for Josh Allen, I go Commanders.
This will be the best quarterback they've surprisingly, a commitment to the running game by Buffalo. James Cook had 169 yards rushing in the first 2 games. I am going to go with the Bills in this one. I'll take the away team. Jaguars, Texans.
Jacksonville
answers all their problems from last week. Yeah.
As impressive as C.J. Stroud has been, I'm going to say this for the fellow Floridians. Duval!
Yeah.
Here we go. Colts, Ravens.
Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore.
Seahawks, Panthers.
Seahawks.
I agree. Seahawks. I said it would be struggle city early for the Panthers. They're showing that. I believe Andy Dalton's making an appearance. I will take a battle of old quarterbacks. I'll take Geno Smith. Chiefs, Bears.
Unfortunately for Bears fans, Chiefs. And I think might be Chiefs big. This might be, like Greg talked about Jacksonville answering all their questions and fixing problems. I think maybe this is the game that Kansas City looks like Kansas City.
Chiefs, but it's going to be closer than you think, Joe.
Okay.
After watching last week's game versus Tampa Bay, I have no faith in either coordinator for Chicago. And granted, it looks like both of them have been relieved of their duties. One stepped down, the other one's not calling plays. So wanted deserved change. There was too much confusion on both sides of the ball. When you're calling screens 3 plays in a row, there's something wrong with your coordinator. Give me the team that actually knows what they're doing. Give me the Chiefs. Cowboys, Cardinals.
Cowboys.
Dallas, big. This could get ugly.
All right, we've got a clean sweep on that one. It's going to be the boys. Steelers, Raiders. That are 1-1 teams.
I'm going to go Raiders.
Vegas.
Yep.
Wow. Vegas. Last time I picked the Steelers, they let me down big time. I don't trust the Raiders either. I'm going to go with the Steelers.
Hey, but the Raiders can score. That's why I'm picking Vegas. They can actually put points on the board.
Yeah.
Jimmy G over Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Battle of hair.
Oh, but Matt Canada is now working much more closely with Kenny Pickett.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's that even mean?
I don't even know what that means.
I am going to let you move out there, Greg. I'm just going to move on to the Monday night game. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to analyze with that. Right there.
Doubleheader Monday.
Yes. So we'll start with the later matchup because the earlier matchup is more intriguing. So we'll go Rams-Bengals.
I think the Rams win this.
I think the Bengals get their first win.
Super Bowl rematch. There's feelings behind this one.
Yeah. I think the Rams take it.
How desperate are the Bengals? Can they pull this off?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Listen, the Puka Nacua is the feel-good story of the world right now with the Rams. The start to the season he's had, especially with Cooper Kupp out. Can the Bengals stop the Rams and put up the points? They're struggling offensively. I'm really worried about this Bengals team. They seem to be feeling the urgency. As much as I want to pick the Bengals or the Rams, it's going to be Rams for me. All right.
I'm lone wolf. I'll take it.
The Rams also have a running back from the University of Notre Dame, Kyron Williams.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Throw that out there as well.
So
we had to get some Irish in there somewhere.
Battle undefeated, Eagles, Bucks. In Tampa Bay here. What do you got?
I'm going to take Tampa.
Really?
Yeah, Boston Scott's out for the Eagles. They got one less running back. And I really, really believe that the Buccaneers can exploit that Eagles secondary.
I'm going to go Philadelphia. I think this one might get ugly.
I predicted it, so I'm not going against my prediction. I'm going to stay with the Eagles on this one. I just think that the biggest strength for the Eagles is the Bucs' weakness, and usually that exploits itself. It makes itself evident. I don't think this will be a lopsided victory. I do think this will be an entertaining game, but unfortunately, I do think the Bucs come up short because they just can't. They won't be able to sustain as many drives as the Eagles. All right. So we got it in, fellas.
We are.
Full hour.
Yeah.
We miss Ashmere's persona, but we got through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's in Vegas, so I don't know who got the better end of the deal. I enjoyed the show, but Vegas.
You know what? I guess I'm just too old for Vegas, man. I don't know. I've been married too long. I ain't going out there acting up. So yeah, and I don't gamble, so I'm pretty much over Vegas. So I think I got the better end of the deal because I'm actually doing something I'm enjoying. So
you put it that way. Three winners here on the screen.
And Joe, it's Benjamin St. Just, a Canadian, who is going to have that interception against Josh Allen to win the game for them.
I'm going to write that down. Where's my notebook?
Benjamin St. Just.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got one of my favorite corners in this draft, Emmanuel Forbes. He's been doing phenomenal for you guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
For you guys. Ron Rivera hit on a draft pick, folks. Look at that. You know, people were like, Emmanuel Forbes so early?
It can happen.
Yeah. Well. And it is a guy that I was on for a while. So a very sticky guy in coverage. So it's going to be a problem for all of the NFC East teams for years to come.
As long as he doesn't turn into that green character that they used to have there. No.
One of the greats of all time.
Oh, man.
Still running sub 540s at his age.
Yep.
At least he can still run. I can't run anymore.
Yeah, I want to try that.
Man, listen. Bone on bone sucks. I'll tell you that right now, folks.
There you go.
I miss having cartilage in my knee. All right.
Yep.
Really good. But it's time to go. We hope you enjoy your football Sunday. We'll be back with more Moving the Chains next week. Make sure you tune in for the last word next week. We'll be back as well, talking more college football. And we might sneak another show in if the week is really good, just like we did last week. So stay tuned for more. Bucks Weekly coming your way next week as well. We got a lot of stuff, college football forecast. Make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching on YouTube. All the nuts and bolts sports content coming your way. I hope you're looking at all the stuff coming through on the site, on social media as well. Support the little guys, folks. We bring you quality stuff. No more of that Bart stock stuff. All right?
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Greg. Appreciate you sliding in, man. Guess dude coming off the bench and scoring 2 TDs.
Not a problem, guys.
That's how Mariano Rivera right there. Greg's the closer.
There you are.
There you go. So we got a comment. Let's throw the comment up before we go. Thanks for watching, Kev. We appreciate you.
Appreciate that, Kevin.
Yes. So for Joe Cardozo, for Greg Rector, this is Jeff Barnes here on Moving the Chains, and for Ashmere, who's enjoying himself in Vegas. Everybody, take care. We'll see you next week.